The joint construction was based on a video around first contact that is on the My Place website, and it's a video that depicts interaction between two children, Dan, who's part of the British Marines, and Warrawee, who's an Aboriginal girl. And Dan is put in a situation where he has to basically steal Warrawee's dog. And our focus for looking at perspective was on identifying the role of participants across the text, so the who in particular, not so much the what, but how participants in text are conveyed through the use of noun groups and building up description, or sometimes repeating noun groups, or limiting the content in noun groups to actually convey perspectives across text. Remember I said this is joint? Go back to the video. If we're writing for someone who hasn't seen the video, so they haven't had the effect of the dialogue in the video, they haven't seen the images in the video, okay, they haven't heard the music going across it, we have to capture all of that, everything that we see in the visual and the sound there, we have to transport into written language. So our language is going to have to work hard, and we're going to have to show perspective from Dan's perspective. I put Dan, but what can we do after Dan to say who Dan is?
The young settler.
Dan, yeah? Who was? Was he a settler?
He was a young British boy. He was
okay, who was a young British boy? Are we having a boy? That's strong. Because did Dan think he was a visitor? No. Did Dan think he was a trespasser?
No. He thought he was a British. For his perspective, he is a visitor, but into the natives, they considered them a trespasser. So it's hard to put it on. Unless you're doing Warrawee's or Dan's perspective.
So we're going Dan's perspective, right?
So then he's thinking he's just a normal
Alright,
visitor.
tell you what you have to do, and give you a couple of seconds, talk amongst your group. On your whiteboard at the top, write what you think I should put next. But be ready to justify it. He had some kind of uniform on, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Hold whiteboards up. I see male scout. Okay. Visitor. Red coat. Boy. Soldier. What would Dan see himself as on one day?
Visitor, because he knows Warrawee is.
I guess this visitor just for a while or for a longer period of time. So yeah, I think visitor might be more Warrawee's perspective, because maybe she may have thought they were only there for a short period. I don't know. It's hard to know, isn't it?
Because Dan knows Waka and Warrawee, he must have visited him more oftenly than the rest of the countries.
Yeah.
Dan would say he's like a visitor because he wouldn't say he's trespassed, he's not doing anything wrong. He'd say he's visiting and helping out his country.
So we probably know that they're settling there to kind of as a new country.
So you're saying he's a settler?
Yeah, like saying that he's not. He would know that he's not really going to be going anywhere.
So is he a visitor or a settler? What have we built? Dan, who was a young British settler, what have you just built? Yeah, you built a whole noun group with an adjective clause. How can we name Dan again?
We have to kind of like change that so that it includes the dog with him, right? Like in the same thing, or else it's kind of like a different sentence.
Yeah, alright.
Because like the governor spotted Dan and the dog at the same time. So
you know what? Come up. I'm glad you picked that up. Good. Okay.
Oh, that's not shit, right?
That's alright. Don't worry, we're not worried about that stuff. We're worried about our ideas. We go back to what you were doing. You wanted to rename Dan in a different way, didn't you? Okay. So how can we do that? Can anyone do that? Write on your whiteboard another way to introduce Dan. I'll tell you first.
The curious boy. Yeah, this is the young kid.
Big boy with the secret, hiding a secret.
Yes, great. Excellent. There's such a range here. But we need to decide which one is the best choice. Okay, let's go around and point you. Read yours out. Over here.
The young, curious Briton.
Okay.
The red-coated fella.
The red-coated fella. Okay.
Dan.
Dan. They've just gone Dan. What have you got? He.
Miss.
He. They've just gone he. So we've got this whole range of choices. We've got these kind of noun groups that are telling us important information, but I don't know if it's quite the time to tell it yet. And then we've got simple things like Dan or he. What do we do?
Well, it should be like, just like the name or he, because you've already introduced Dan, and they know like by a young person to say like, yeah, he's young, by his name he's a boy, and because he's a British settler, he loves to wear like something formal, as the same as all the other settlers. So there's no point in reintroducing him again because of who he is.
Mine's a bit heavy and too big a noun groups, yeah? Okay, let's go with that. Do you want to say something different?
We could always describe how your fella looks. Like, because fella might not describe him enough. Like, you can always tell how he looks.
Right.
Yes, could we do the dog belonged to a native girl called Warren?
We all have Aboriginal.
Oh, Aboriginal girls, you think maybe natives better?
Yeah.
That describes.
Okay, yeah, how come?
Well, I reckon native because they haven't talked about Aboriginal people yet in this text, so like they're using native dog, like, and you could also use native girl because.
But you know what? I've never thought about this, but that's the term that gets used in those texts we've been reading, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you reckon? Yeah? Yeah, hang on, yeah.
Well, we already have the native dog, and Aboriginal girl describes the girl more than native girl.
Yeah, but we've used native already.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, hang on. Whose perspective are we trying to pull in here?
Dan.
What would Dan say?
Aboriginal.
She's French.
Yeah, because he knows her. So
And then the native dog, like in the video, they said
background.
native dog. They said the native dog, not like.
And you could tell
Do you remember how at the end, when they had rocks being thrown at them though?
Yeah.
How what was it? The natives.
So the natives
So
are
wouldn't if you say Aboriginal, because we haven't actually said where it is.
Yeah.
Text and saying,
We're only said the
if we say
No,
that
that is working on
to a native Aboriginal girl, then that way we're saying that it's not saying Aboriginal girl from in a different country.
If we
And
say
it's more saying that it's a native Aboriginal girl who lives
Yes.
in that country. And it's saying, it's also telling us where the country is in the country.
Yeah,
when it's
Memphis?
Well, in Dan's perspective, he didn't call her native or Aboriginal. He called her by her name. So it's hard to put it on.
What a great point too.
He mostly called her as a friend.
So you're saying Dan wouldn't actually say native girl? So because and this is where it gets tricky, isn't it? We're being the narrators stepping in here, and we're conscious of our audience and what we should say to make it clear to the audience. Tell you what, I'm really happy just with the conversation. Very good. Very good. Keep going.
they might not have even be given the name Aboriginal yet, but
Yeah.
because like they hadn't have been there for long. They'd only have been there because like they were the first people there, like to settle. Then they wouldn't have. They would have called them natives because they might not have given them the name. Yeah.
I think that's a jolly good point because that's about the context of the events, isn't it? Yeah?
Well, in the video, it said like when the governor told them to go look, Dan said that what happens if this dog belonged to a native person
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
So
Now,
it's-
and remember, because My Place Stuff is produced by Nadia Weekly too, so it's not totally fictitious. A lot of it is, but it is researched as well. What is it we're talking about? What type of word is that that's really critical? Native or Aboriginal or even Australian? What kind of girl? What type of word is that? It's a classifying adjective, and we've learned from the model text we've read that those classifying adjectives are really, really important in constructing perspective and even placing the events in a particular time. So remember, a couple of lessons ago we talked about repetition, and sometimes it's really powerful, and then other times you've got to go, no, it's overdoing it. So again, your decision, the dog or the native dog. The dog.
Warui's dog.
Well, it's
ownership, and that's
Because it says he knew it was his friend's dog, so then you have to be saying, it's kind of saying that it's Waruri.
I think that's a brilliant idea.
But also,
Brilliant idea.
could
Yeah, capture Warrior's dog. And I like the way they said ownership, because would Dan be viewing the dog as Warrior's or is it the government's?
Warrior's.
So again, even it seems like not a big deal, but that choice of putting Warrior in creates what?
ownership.
Well, Dan's view of who owns the dog, doesn't it? If we're trying to capture, as writers, capture how he's thinking about the world.
But you could also, because it's from Dan's perspective, so you also could use Lapa because he knows already that it's.
He knows the dog's
Yeah.
name's Lapa. Yeah. We could,
Warui's dog, Wapa.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's the only one that knows that. So again, these don't seem like big deals, putting these words in, but they actually are, aren't they?
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're crafting a text. It's just like when you make something. If you make something with your hands, or you do an artwork. Same thing with language. You craft the language to fit your purpose. And because we've got all these tools, remember our noun groups to name participants, okay? And what else have I been talking about? What other words have I been bringing into? Have you noticed? All your articles which are part of the noun group. There's another group that we haven't talked a lot about. So when we've gone search, capture, yeah, the verb group has a role to play here too, doesn't it? So if you've got the tools, you can actually craft your language. And so how much discussion has gone into this? This is really what good writers do. The critical conversation is what we're calling what goes on at the point of joint construction in particular, but also with modelling where we're talking about text. And it's critical because we're not just talking about the field or the subject matter of text, but we're giving and equipping students, or empowering students, if you like, to actually have the tools for talking about language.
Article and then adjective, classifying adjective, noun, adjective, phrase, and adjective.